So I saw a guitar on eBay that was a bit of a risk, but I've always wanted one. You don't see them very often. I had to get it, and you won't believe what happened next. Roll that intro. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Guitar Talk with me, Dan. So this is the story of a guitar that I bought a couple of weeks ago now. Well, 2 weeks ago on Friday. It's Monday now. So I was doing a bit of shopping on eBay for what we do here at Guitar Gear Giveaway, and I came across an advert for what looked like an old PRS. And for those of you that know me or you followed the channel for a while, you know that I love PRS guitars. My number one guitar is a PRS, and I think they're some of the best guitars that you can possibly get in the world. And I've always wanted an early one, but early ones now, like I was born in 1985, and that is like the first year, I think, of proper production for PRS guitars. And if I wanted to get one of those, they're like £13,000 now, some more, some a little bit less, but much more than I can afford. And from there on, early ones are fetching a fair amount of money these days, more than I can afford, as I said. And I came across this advert, which I'll post a screenshot here, and it was sat at around £830 for ages. And I looked at it and I thought, that looks like a really old PRS. That looks early 90s. Serial number says it's 91. And I was watching it for ages. And it got to when the timer was counting down. I put in a bid last minute, and someone outbid me by like £5, and I lost it. And then a few days later, it got relisted, and I messaged the guy and I said, hey, look, why has this been relisted? I was the second highest bidder, and I was gutted to miss out on this. What happened? And he said, the guy who won never paid, dropped me a message and just said, hey, I'll pick it up in a couple of weeks, and then never got back to me, so I've relisted it. So I said, hey, this is what it sold for. Are you happy with that? Because it went for like £1,300, £1,300, which in terms of early 90s PRSs is an absolute steal. It's a bargain. So I messaged him and I said, look, are you happy with that price? And he was like, yeah, I'm happy with that. So I bought it. And there are a few little oddities in the pictures, like there was tape on the head, on the neck in a couple of places. It looked a bit battered, and the messages that I sent the guy, I'm being a little bit generous with his replies, because his replies were very sort of one sentence and not very friendly. But I thought, hey, look, I don't want to miss out on this guitar, and at the same time, it's eBay. I'm protected by eBay selling and buying and all that stuff, so I want to take the risk. So I paid him the money, and he said he would get it posted out ASAP, and it was supposed to arrive 2 Fridays ago. It didn't, and the day of delivery came, and about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I got an email from DPD thanking me for updating my delivery to the week after. And I thought, I've not done that. What's going on here? Maybe the driver just didn't have time to deliver it. It's a bit gutting because I was really looking forward to getting it, and I'll have to wait until Monday now. But I didn't update the delivery day. Monday came, and it got to around lunchtime, and I would normally expect to get a DPD delivery time slot by this time, but I hadn't heard anything. So I messaged a friend and bandmate who works at the local DPD depot and said, hey, if I give you the tracking number, can you try and track down this guitar for me? It's not moved, it's still at the depot, it's been scanned in there, what's going on? So I gave him the number, and he had a look. And that's where it all got a little bit more concerning, because he sent me this picture, and this is after DPD have wrapped it in bubble wrap. Essentially, the guy had posted it in a piece of hard plastic that had broken open, and the guitar was just lying on the floor in the depot with no padding, no kind of packaging, no nothing, looking in absolute state, and the drivers were refusing to take responsibility for delivering it because they didn't just want to hand me a beaten up guitar and just think that I'd be like, hey, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, the drivers didn't want to touch it. So I had to drive over to DPD in the evening and go pick it up myself. And I didn't know what I was expecting for the price that I paid, the state it was delivered in, and all of the lack of communication from the guy. I reached out to the guy and I said, look, DPD are refusing to deliver it and they've sent me this picture. And he just said, oh yeah, they broke the box when they picked it up. And that was it, nothing else. So I went over, I picked it up, I got it home and unwrapped it. And this is the guitar that I bought. Was in a bit of a state, shall we say. It's got chunks missing out the finish, you can see here. The frets at the time, I don't know if any of you have ever had it, but if a guitar takes a big impact on the front, especially on the treble strings, they can dent into the frets in not like a fretwear kind of way, but a way that you get this fine dent running all the way down the fretboard. So on all the frets, essentially if you push down the strings and try to bend, it would just go clink, 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 clink. And that was on all 3 treble strings. The fretboard, as you can see, was the most disgusting, driest fretboard I've ever seen. This is supposedly, it's a 1991. It's supposedly the last year that PRS used Brazilian rosewood. And I don't know if this is Brazilian rosewood, but it was the driest, filthiest bit of rosewood I've ever seen. So the guy, I reached out to him, he said, look, if you want to send it back, send it back. But I didn't want to send it back. The state that this guitar turned up, maybe I'm too emotional about these things, but the state this guitar turned up in, I didn't want to send it back to the guy because it's not been looked after and I didn't want it going back there. So I thought, I'm going to do this up and I'm going to return it to the stage. I've got a gig in 2 weeks' time and I want to play this train wreck of a guitar. So first thing I did was I posted a couple of pictures, one of the fretboard and one of the inside of the cavity, the pickup cavity, because I wanted to check if the pickups were original, on a Facebook group, the PRS Guitar Owners Worldwide Facebook group. And a really cool thing happened. The guy who did the original staining on this guitar, a chap named Kevin, who's in the group, recognized his signature inside the guitar and reached out and said hey, I worked on the guitar in 1991 in the PRS factory. And he wanted to see some pictures of it. And I said to him, Kevin, you're not going to be happy. And I sent him pictures of the guitar all covered in filth, chips missing out of it, all of that stuff. And safe to say, he was a little bit gutted at what had become of the PRS that he helped build and work on. Speaking to Kevin has been absolutely great. He has been so lovely, and it's not every day that you buy a guitar that is over 30 years old like this, and the guy who worked on the guitar originally and was a massive part of how it looked when it left the factory reaches out to you to talk to you about the guitar and kind of take me on a cool trip down memory lane of what life was like at PRS at the time. He sent me over these really cool pictures of himself at the staining table, his brother Travis, who worked there as well at the time, Paul Reed Smith himself with his original band, a team photo from the early 90s. It's all been really, really cool to look at. And as well, he sent me this picture of the guys in the staining room, all dressed in women's lingerie, because at the time Skid Row and Aerosmith were coming into the factory for a little look around, and they just thought, early 90s, hair metal, all that kind of stuff, that it would be a great idea to dress up in women's clothing and get to work. And it's amazing to look at that and just think, when you think of Paul Reed Smith guitars and quality and workmanship and all that kind of stuff, you don't expect that the guys could have been there in women's lingerie just getting to work and just staining the top of your guitar. So that has been absolutely amazing to see. And I didn't expect, when I bought this guitar, a guitar like this that I'd always wanted, to find someone like Kevin who used to work there, who was going to reach out with photos and all that kind of stuff. So Kevin, massive thank you for that. And it's been great to see a behind the scenes look of what life was like at the factory at the time. It's just been such a great part of the story to be able to talk to someone who originally worked on this guitar when I decided that I wanted to bring it back to the stage, because there was no way that it was playable in the state that it turned up. So obviously I got to work. First up was the fretboard, and it was disgusting. I prepped it and I cleaned off what seemed like years and years of grime and dirt, and it was horrible. And underneath I was left with possibly the driest piece of rosewood that I have ever seen. Over the course of about a week, this thing had about 20 coats of conditioner put into it, drinking it up, and it's looking a lot better than it was, and I'm pretty sure I could carry on conditioning it and it would just keep drinking it up. But I don't want to do that because I don't want to go completely overboard on it. I know some people will probably say I already have, but it's not exactly like when you put lemon oil on and it's just kind of oozing back out. This thing was drinking it all up like it had never been conditioned in its life. So once that was out of the way, the next thing I had to do was sort out the tuners, because as you can see, there are thumb screws missing. And I will admit, this bit I still haven't managed to do, because you can't just find spare parts for these tuners. They work as they are. There's even possibly some part of a Floyd Rose in this one rather than a normal thumb screw. I've reached out to Jez at PRS, who said he's going to see if he's got any lying around. I paid £60 to get some phase 1 wing tuner thumb screws sent from John Mann's in America, only to find that they didn't fit. And I'm not going to spend £30 to ship 6 screws back to America, because then I'm £90 deep for a £30 refit. It doesn't make sense. So I've got some random early 90s style thumb screws that don't fit these tuners lying around now, but they work, and that is the main thing. Next up was the body, which it's absolutely covered in dings and scratches that are never going to get taken out of this guitar, but that is all part of its story. But the dirt that was on there is something else. That is not part of the story. That is just not looking after the guitar. So it has been polished within an inch of its life to bring some of the shine back to it. So that is all good now. I don't know if it's where it took an impact on the front of the guitar that put all the dings into the frets, but the 5-way selector switch, it's got a 5-way selector, so rather than a normal pickup selector, this clicks around and you get the inner outer coils and all that kind of stuff. And then it's got a sweet switch, which I'm not entirely sure how that works, but it changes the tone of the guitar. This was shattered and the control just kept turning round. So first of all, took the back plate off, secured all of that, made sure it worked, and then found the closest knob I could find to match this knob. I'm not sure if this is original, but I wanted them to match as close as I could. So all of that was sorted, and safe to say it works, and it's the original pickups. Then it was on to something that is completely outside of my comfort zone and skill set, sorting out the frets and doing the fret work on it. I polished up the frets a little bit, cleaned them up a little bit just to kind of make it clear what the damage was to the frets. And you can see here a picture I took before any work was done on it. Little deep dings, as I said, so if you tried to bend the strings, you just get clinking noises and would probably snap a string where it's catching on the frets and everything. And then this is after G worked on it, and you can see it is night and day the difference that has been made. So it's been taken from being unplayable to being completely playable. And I was aware getting this sorted out within a couple of weeks, including all the fret work, was going to be a bit of a mission, but G absolutely smashed it out of the park getting the frets ready. With the fretwork out of the way, all that was left for this really was to get some strings on it and get it set up and see how well it played and if it was giggable. Yes, there's still some stuff to do. I'd love to get a couple of the original thumb screws to finish these off, and I need to get a truss rod cover for it as well. But I was nervous with this because of the amount of fret wear it had with all the little dings and stuff, if there would be enough material left on the frets or if it was going to need to have a refret or anything like that. And I was so happy once the strings were on it and it was set up. It plays absolutely beautifully. Now, most of my PRSs that I've got have all got little battle scars on them, dings. Blue Mateo Blue Custom 22 I've got lumps out of it. Similar kind of place actually. I got that from one of Eric Clapton's old roadies, and most people wouldn't want to touch PRSs like that because a lot of PRS collectors and people that buy PRSs look at them as pieces of art that you just want to hang on the wall in pristine condition. And guitars are made to be played, and I love getting beaten up old PRSs and playing them on stage like they should be. And this was no exception. So I took this out, I gigged it, and you can see some footage of me on stage playing it with my band, and luckily it was a gig that there were loads of people there having fun, and this guitar sounded absolutely incredible. I've still got to get used to the 5-way rotary switch because it's not like you can just flick from neck to bridge and all that kind of stuff. And I think I found my favorite setting, which is this on a single coil. Sounds absolutely great through my setup, and the current fractal version of a Friedman BE100 that I'm running sounds absolutely incredible. So yeah, I guess that is the story of how I got this guitar, the state it was in, the absolute horror that it was in, from the eBay ad all the way up to it not being delivered, what I found when I unwrapped all the stuff that DPD had put on it and the work that went into it. Getting this back on stage has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so happy that it can be played again and it's now in my collection. So yeah, I thought it was worth doing a video on. I found it interesting and I hope you guys did too. So other than that, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.